Mafia the Old Country has been out for a few days now, and I've had a bit of time to process the story and do a little bit of linking together with later Mafia games. It's very clear to me that this game, just from playing it and not going off what anything the developers have said, is overall a part of the bigger Mafia picture, but it does try its best to stand alone by itself in the story. So you don't have to go and play the remake of Mafia 1, Mafia 2 and even Mafia 3 to understand what this game is all about. It does link later through the different games though, through a couple of characters that are sort of, I'd say, returning or at least start off in this game and eventually will appear in the later Mafia games down the line. But they're only in the form of some Easter eggs and they don't really matter too much to understand what the story is about. I do, however, want to briefly summarise and explain what this game's ending is all about, and some of the things that you'll be expected to see in Easter eggs throughout this game which link to later games as well, and potentially talk about what's next for the Mafia series, because this game, with it being a prequel and the first in the series so far, where are they going to go with later Mafia games? Even around the same time frame as the American ones, but eventually or possibly even set games back in Sicily later on down the line, and I think I would really like to see that. If you guys haven't already checked out my previous video on the story of Mafia the Old Country, I'd highly recommend you go and check it out and watch it through. It's very detailed, covers the entirety of the story, and it explains basically everything that you guys need to know. But if you guys are here for the ending summarized, then let's get into it right now. So let's do a quick recap of the story here, and then towards the end we can start linking and explaining and even theorizing as to where this franchise is going to go next. Check the timestamps down below to skip to whichever parts of the video you'd like to. Let's dive in. Enzo, the main protagonist in this story and new character in the series, begins his journey at a sulfur mine in Sicily. He was sold to the owner of the mine as a worker by his father for only 100 lira, so he could pay off his existing debts. Since then he's been working, saving and just getting by so he could get out of Sicily and leave this place as quickly as he possibly could and start a new life, with America being the dream location. However, one day Enzo was sent into the mines to find a lost team of people, and in which he encountered a gas leak and it sent the cave crumbling down around him. He very narrowly escaped and even stood up to one of the mine's leaders at the beginning, getting into an altercation with a knife before fleeing on a horse to another part of Sicily where they tracked him down. These were a group called the Sperados, and the town in Sicily is a fictional one named San Celeste, one from Mafia 2. Don Teresi instructed that Enzo stayed with him and he offered him a job on his estate. Luca, Teresi's right-hand man, took Enzo under his wing and showed him the ropes. Along the way, however, he met someone that would change his life and experience with this Mafia family forever, Isabella. This, however, was a problem for Enzo and Isabella because she was Don Teresi's daughter, and if he found out about the two of them and their love interests, Enzo was a dead man. Throughout the story, Enzo was gradually integrated more and more into the work of this Mafia family, and not just a stable boy. He would join the likes of Luca and Cesare, who was Don Teresi's nephew, on their rent collection rounds, doing tasks for the group in terms of stealing and even in some cases killing and executing people. He became a very important part of the family and one that would be promoted throughout the ranks and even towards the end be given the sulfur mine, the one that he worked and suffered and was sold to by Don Teresi when he took over that mine, as a thank you and a gift for being so loyal to the family. However, throughout all of this, Enzo and Isabella would see each other in secret, spend time with one another when they could, and sometimes even going weeks apart without seeing each other. And she eventually fell pregnant. They both had a plan to run away together, raise their family, get married, and get out of this mess they were in. All of this really became real when Luca, who had a family and a wife that lived on the estate, was shot and died there and then in front of Enzo's eyes, with his last words were, "Enzo, get out," meaning get out of this Mafia family and go and start a new life somewhere else. They had a plan to run away together, so Enzo completes his final job, killing Don Sperado, which was the leader of the other mafia group in rivalry with Don Torrisi, and Fontanella, whose family owned basically the entirety of the estate across Sicily. However, the message of them leaving was intercepted by Don Torrisi and all the rest of his family, and well, it wasn't received very well. Enzo would have to fight Cesare and Don Torrisi, even to the death, until Cesare, well, caught Enzo out. With them both being so close throughout the story, Enzo was convinced that Cesare would join him, be by his side, even leave for America with him and Isabella. But he was too attached to the Mafia, too attached to the code, and Cesare stabbed Enzo in the side of the stomach, letting him bleed out on the floor and leaving Isabella to raise this child on her own. Isabella, however, managed to board the ship to America, and she made her way there, starting her new life with her baby, away from the Mafia, away from her previous life. Cesare, however, would stay in Sicily. What he would do, we don't know. That is potentially for future games, or even DLC if there's one planned for this game. But it ended on a little bit of a cliffhanger. Now, that was a very high level overview summary of what happened in the game. There's obviously a lot more, many other points in detail that I could go in, but if you guys want that level of detail, then go and check out this upload on screen right now, or in the top right hand side of the screen, or even in the description down below. So a couple of points just to highlight. This game, of course, did have a couple of Easter eggs for future Mafia games, including places and a few other people. So obviously we have San Celeste, which is the town from Mafia 2, which returns, and it's around the first mission you play as well. You also get a young Leo Galante as well, and it appears before becoming the influential figure that we meet later on in the series. And Sap Trapini's family ties links directly to Mafia 1. Also laying the foundation, Hangar 13 designed it to expand the Mafia universe across generations. The stories ripple forward, connecting the old country to the American Mafia saga, and it leaves more room for them to even go back to the Mafia side in Sicily and have them expand on this game. So what they've done is, obviously with the Mafia series in America, they've gone one way with it and they've done a lot there. Whereas what they've done with the old country is they've kind of opened up a new door to say that within the same time frames as the American Mafia series, there could also be a parallel game taking place in Sicily with direct links to America, which I think would be really cool. And potentially, that's what they're doing with Cesare, being the new Mafia boss of Sicily, the one that runs the place. You know, maybe that's why they've kept him alive. But in terms of characters from this game, what can we expect to come back and not to come back? I don't think we're going to hear from Isabella again. I don't think we're going to hear from the baby again. I could be wrong, but I feel like that part of the story was just to do with Enzo, and now that is over. It was a character that was in there to provide you with purpose, to provide you with meaning, and I feel like Isabella served that purpose perfectly, and bringing her back wouldn't really make any sense to me anyway. But she's in America with her new baby, she'll probably get married again, and that is all done. As for Cesare, as I said, he obviously has nothing now, no home, no family, no Mafia family name, they're all dead. Don Torrisi is dead as well. He's now starting from fresh. He was invested even when it got tough. So I think he'll stay in Sicily and again try to rebuild from what his uncle spent all those years building, and he'll be the new Mafia boss, and potentially this is where a future Mafia game will take place, with him at the very top. And of course for Enzo, I feel terribly bad about Enzo's death because I actually liked the character, and it shows how good the writing was. He was looking for a purpose, and that was all he was trying to find since leaving the mine. He found that not only in the work with the Mafia family, but also within Isabella. Enzo was just happy to be out there. He was happy to just have a straw bed to sleep on, to have a purpose and to work, to show his worth. He was able to do that along the way, whilst also meeting the love of his life and obviously getting her pregnant and having a baby. When he tried to get out of that lifestyle and live happy just with Isabella, unfortunately it came back to bite him. It just shows the Mafia's biggest principle is around trust. Every one of them broke that trust barrier. Enzo with Isabella, obviously they weren't supposed to be together, and they basically kept that secret. And Cesare to end it with Enzo. Overall, this game is a standalone one, with Easter eggs to show that it's a part of the bigger picture. I would recommend you playing this game, kind of. I mean, just go and watch the video that I created. It will save you £45 and it will give you all the information really that you need to know. However, the gameplay, it lacked for me. If it wasn't for the story, I probably wouldn't have been able to finish this game. I'll be completely honest. But let me know your thoughts and opinions down below, everyone. I really appreciate you watching this video. If you did enjoy, a like would be very appreciated. Let's turn it 30,000 subscribers. That would also be awesome. So leave a like and subscribe. That would be great. But without further ado, everyone, have a great day. We'll speak to you all next time.